This week on the Fall Guy podcast, Matt's former NASCAR teammate, Ironman David Starr, gets surprisingly emotional.
One of my sponsors bought half of a team, and the team they bought, they used up all the money, and before I could run my first race, they shut it down, you know. And you know, your parents,
Whether you're building a rig for work, off-roading adventures, or just to flex on your neighbors, LiftKitsForLess.com has you covered. They have top brands, the lowest prices, and free shipping on all orders over $75. Get more at LiftKitsForLess.com. More lift, more clearance, more weekend wins. Head over now to turn that factory yawn into a lifted legend. Because in life and in trucks, bigger is better, and louder is louder. LiftKitsForLess.com. That's LiftKits4Less.com. Get more, pay less.
This is the Fall Guy podcast with Matt Jaskol.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so we'll talk. We're gonna, share more, and you'll know more about why and how, and the more important, the why of why we're starting the Fall Guy podcast. And you literally got to see me fall from the sky, which was pretty cool. You were my teammate. We have an amazing. I love it, man. I'm honored to have it. I have a video clip on my wrist. When I did that crazy stunt of mine, you were one of the first guys to greet me and congratulate me when I pulled off that skydive into my race in Vegas.
Second guy was Ty Gibbs.
Yeah,
Mike, that was amazing. I'm never Matt's special, man. You know, I never. First of all, I wouldn't jump out of an airplane. There's nothing wrong with it, you know. So you don't need to jump
We're
out
of
of
like
it.
mind.
Matt jumped out of it in his racing uniform, landed in the infield there, had an American flag. They sung the national anthem, and man, they introduced him, and he got his race car, went and racing. Man, it's unbelievable. I've never seen that. I've
Like a
never
damn
seen that
bald
ever
eagle.
before in my life. That's a once in
Yeah.
a lifetime. That's the grand entrance right there, Matt. You won that, buddy.
Thank you. And listen, we'll move on from me because genuinely something I really remember about it, because I was on the radio with my spotter, Stephen Leicht, and I was asking where you were, and I was trying to hook up with you and link up with you and was always trying to learn from you. And I remember a few times, man, no joke, this is a true story, not a word of a lie. I was having a good run. I finished pretty well. I started 40th. If you remember, there was COVID rules. We had no practice, no qualifying. So I frickin' started dead last. You were close. I think you were maybe, a few positions ahead. But at some point in the race, I was ahead of you. And I was like, man, all right, I'm doing good. We both had driven about halfway through the field. But then like in a blink of an eye, I go, so where's David? He's like 5 positions in front of you. I was like, how the hell did he get there? I didn't even see him do it.
I remember that incident as well, and you're a hard charger. I mean, you get everything you can out of a car. I can promise people that.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's no different from Matt or anybody else. That's what we do, and a lot of times, the teams we're racing for, very underfunded racing teams, and over the years we've give up a lot qualifying, but when they drop the green flag, it's you got to navigate the race, and man, it's all about moving forward, and we've been fortunate to be able to do that over the years. It's kept me in the game for a long time. The phone still rings and people want you to drive your race cars, but sometimes when everybody's all out for that one lap, with the teams that we've been associated with, and Matt knows what I'm talking about, you just get all you can get. But it's all about running the whole race and getting the finish result or the end results when it's all said and done, So, yeah.
Well, not first off, but second off, let me also say thank you, David, for being a good mentor, man. Like, I've had a lot of teammates in my life. I've had some pretty big name drivers as teammates, and some of them weren't always so cool. I've had teammates that I looked up to and thought they were great, and then as soon as I was a teammate of theirs, they weren't such cool dudes, and you were a friend from the moment we shook hands. There was nothing you weren't willing to share, and I hope I really always appreciated that, and I still do, man. And for the better, you said something, always moving forward. So for more than 25 years, you've been doing that. Real fast, tell all of our fans, which is really just my mother at the moment in my care, tell us where you are right now and where are you getting ready to go to?
Well, I'm actually in one of my race car trailers. I'm here at my shop at the Texas Motor Speedway. I have a Team Texas High Performance Racing School based here at the Texas Motor Speedway. We've been in business since we were doing racing schools for Ross Perot Jr., who's part of the, him and the city of Fort Worth and the Smith family,
Amazing.
built the Texas Motor Speedway. And we were doing, Team Texas was doing schools for Ross Perot Jr. and his company way before the racetrack opened up to the public or they even had a race. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I got a big event on the 18th when I get back from Daytona, and I'm just
No
doing
big
the
deal.
maintenance on my race
I just
cars.
skimmed over Daytona.
I
Just
got
skimmed over, after I go to Daytona and race.
yeah, absolutely, man.
Something big's happening after Daytona.
So you're at your race. You're actually in a race trailer, which is badass. Thank you for that. So cool. You took the time to do a podcast from your race trailer. Not like you're not busy enough. And you told me tomorrow, I think Sunday, you're going to head to North Carolina where you got to get ready for Daytona 500 weekend, right? And you're racing on Saturday.
Absolutely. I'm driving for Joey Gase Racing. Joey Gase is a great friend of mine. And Joey's a good guy. We've been competitors over the years. And the last 2 or 3 years, I've been really driving a lot for Joey. And this year, I'm probably going to end up doing 12 or 13 races with Joey. And
that's huge.
so I'm racing for him at Daytona. I would have liked to have been in Charlotte today and tomorrow, but I won't be able to fly over there till tomorrow evening. We're actually running our Daytona cars, the same car that I drove in Talladega towards the end of last year. So the seat and the pedals, everything fits me really good. But I'll go over there and spend a day and a half with the team, just checking, just to make sure from a driver's standpoint inside our cockpit, everything's perfect, and just go over some stuff with the team and Joey. And then I'll fly out of there Tuesday afternoon and head to Daytona.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Tell us who's supporting you. What are the sponsors? I mean, and we're going to get, if you will with us, we're going to get a little deeper and share with people about just how damn difficult it is to put some of these deals together, the cost, the different levels of cars, and we'll chat about that for a little bit. But who's supporting you for Daytona?
Man, I got a new company, not a new company for me. A good friend of mine named Bill, he owns a company called Apex Wireless.
Okay.
And Apex Wireless, they're actually they sell all kinds of mobility solutions. They offer T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon. He has all the different networks, cell phone networks, and he's got the Walmart account. I think he has Amazon, but Apex Wireless is really Bill Bruton is he's done an amazing job. He's actually an agent of another sponsor of mine, Connectus Wireless. Bill sells their Verizon solutions, but I've known Bill for a long time. Ran into him at a Christmas party at the Cowboy Club over the Christmas time, and we were just talking about racing. He's been to a lot of races with me. Want to know what 2026 looked like, and I was sharing with him how many races I was running and some of the companies that I was involved with. And man, it wasn't like 6 days later, I got a phone call from him, and Bill said, "Man, Apex Wireless, we want to jump on board. We like to do Daytona, like to do the Charlotte race, and maybe Phoenix." And the cool thing about Apex Wireless is they have an initiative. It's called Cell Phones for Soldiers. These men and women that are in combat, that are all fighting for our freedom and our country, when they come back into the civilian world. And I was Matt, Mike, I didn't really, I've heard about it, read a little bit about it, but when Bill invited me to his Christmas party for the company, and they announced their involvement in NASCAR with myself to his employees, I met Rob and his sister, who are they founded this Cell Phones for Soldiers. But it was interesting hearing them speak about the suicide rates, which caught me off guard. When you come back into the civilian world, a lot of these soldiers, heroes, they're not able to afford a cell phone and even the service for a cell phone. So, Cell Phones for Soldiers is they get us, I forget, I don't know really the process and the selection process, but they'll give soldiers a cell phone for free, and they'll pay for their service for 3 years. And that way, if something's not going very well, or they're having some thoughts that they really don't need to be having, maybe they'll pick up their cell phone, call a family member, call somebody that really means a lot to them, or a loved one, and maybe it'll talk them, somebody can talk them off the edge, you know what I mean, off the ledge. So it's kind of a neat initiative.
That's amazing, man. Something I noticed right away in I say short amount of time, but it's not so short now. I mean, already 6 years that I've known you and followed you and be a friend, a fan, and you're a teammate. It seems like whenever you have your supporters, your partners, you're definitely one of the top guys that's always trying to do something that actually gives back. I've seen you partner with many different initiatives, and this is just another one. So is that something you look to do usually? Something more meaningful, rather than just trying to find that money to go driving.
Well, it's we got to have great companies, and you've had some good sponsors and partners. What the sport does for their company increases their sales. Increases their the bottom line, their sales. It brings more business to them, whether people or companies are buying their services, or buying their products. But anytime there's an initiative, if you can give back to the community, make a difference. You know how our sport is, a NASCAR race, and just motorsports overall in the United States has really done so much. So all kinds of different charities and communities where we race, where our sponsors are, where the drivers live. That's just a big involvement in motorsports in general. But it's always, you feel like, I feel like the good Lord has blessed me. I've been fortunate. I'm still fortunate. And if I can give back and make somebody else's life better, help the community, help somebody, or do something, it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? And I know
Yeah.
you've done a lot of stuff people don't even know about. We do so much for different, people, organizations, charities. But man, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you just give
Well,
back.
thanks for
I
doing.
think every professional athlete, sport, basketball, NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, whatever sport it may be, I just think, that's just the right thing to do. And a lot of people get involved and do it. So I feel blessed to be able to do my part. And I know you have too.
Along that line, if I may, when I met you, same time you met him, about the same time
Yeah.
anyway, but I was going through some personal things, and you and I had a conversation. I don't expect that you'll remember it, but what I gleaned from it and what I took away from it was you're a man that understands balance. You love God, you love our country, you love your family. Probably not in that exact order, but you love them all. And you gave me some great advice, and I see that balance is a big part of your life. And I think that's something that I struggle with. I don't know about you, but
Of course, all the time,
yeah.
every day.
So you're a great example for that. And I thank you for the conversation.
Well, I appreciate that. There's no perfect. There's only one perfect person. That's definitely not any
Yeah.
of us. But hey, we just do the best we can do and keep on trucking, keep digging. You know what I mean? So yeah, no doubt.
Well, something I'd like to jump into then, on that note, kind of talking about what is the drive, what is it still for you? Because I genuinely, this is not just some question because it's a podcast. This is something that I personally
Yeah.
look up to. I look up to you as you're still out there. It gives me drive. It gives me drive to keep doing it, and you're still out there. You're still fast. You're one of the oldest. We got to talk about it. You're one of the oldest, drivers in NASCAR still doing it,
I
right?
think consecutively you have been in more seasons. We at your age, I don't think there's anybody older than you that's been going at it as consistently.
And you still and let me continue on that. You still get out there. You still get it done. You're still it's something, you and I did talk about as teammates. Your fitness is really important to you as it is to me. You're still one of the more, I'd say you're arguably more fit than some of these kids that jump right into
He's like
it.
Mark Martin.
Yeah, there you go. It's similar to Mark
Taller
Martin.
though.
What is it? So the main question is what is obviously, I mean, I kind of know being a racer, but what is it that still drives you, or what is the, that just still pushes you to keep doing what is so different that people just don't see behind the scenes, man? It just how difficult it is, how emotionally painful it is, the travel, the sleepless nights, the coming up with the money, the failure of finding the money, then putting the sponsorship back together. What still drives you to keep doing it, man?
I mean, just you're competing, you talked about when we raced at Vegas, me and you didn't qualify that well, but we made our way about halfway up through the field. And I don't even remember how you finished. Like you had a good finish. You might
I
have
was like
finished in,
22nd. I think you
yeah,
and I were really close.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and man, we were racing our tails off. We didn't have the best race car out there, but your racing team under the circumstances of its financial situation and how much sponsorship money we bring to the table, you just as a driver, you want to when you leave the racetrack, you want to make sure you can hold your head up high and say, "Man, I gave it everything I had," and you want your pit crew, you want your crew chief. If you have an engineer, we didn't even have an engineer, but you want everybody on your team. You're not going to win the race, but you want to make sure that everybody did the gave it 110%, did the best we could do. And man, if we can get out of there with the 15th or 16th, 17th place finish, it's almost like, Matt, we need to pull into victory lane. There's been several times I'm like, man, I've had other engineers for other manufacturers come up to me and say, man, David, you had a great run. And I said, I felt like we got everything we could get out of the car, obviously 13th or 12th or whatever that finish was. It's not good enough, but that was all we had. I mean, that was, man, I felt like that was all we had. And he said, man, you're taking a little knife to a freaking war. You know what I mean? It's like, and I said, we just do the best you can do under the circumstances. But, it's the competition, man. I love the competition, whether we're racing for wins or whether we're racing for a 20th place or 15th. It's hard racing. I mean, nobody's given. I mean, sometimes some of the best racing in a NASCAR race is back 25th, 26th, 27th. I mean,
That's
man, we're
right.
we're fighting hard and man, you're just racing your tail off. And sometimes a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people do, but man, for me, what drives me is the competition. And the good Lord has blessed me because man, I still every day, even though my guys they laugh at me like today, I still do 500 push-ups a day. You know what I mean?
Woo, yeah.
Today,
Damn.
I mean every day. I mean when I go to the restroom, my guys always tell people when they come by the shop, they say, "Hey, talk when David gets out of the restroom, talk to him right when he walks out." I'm like, man, they do it on purpose, and I know what they're doing. They're all going to start laughing because, man, I knock out 75 push-ups. Every time I go use the restroom, I get on the floor because I'm working. I'm busy
Damn.
building race cars, maintenance race cars. But every day, I'm here at the Texas Motor Speedway. I run the stands a little bit every day, but I do my 500 push-ups Monday through Friday. And if I'm trialing, and you can ask a lot of my crew chiefs over the years, they said, "Man, Star, you ran a race and we catch you up in the hauler doing your push-ups." Well, I used to be fanatic. It was like every day. And now today when I go to the racetrack, when I don't do them before the race or after the race anymore, but when I'm at home, man, I do my 500 push-ups Monday through Friday, except if I'm at a racing competition, but you try to stay fit. The good Lord has blessed me. I'm 58 years old, but man, some of my employees are 20 something years old and man, they can't keep up. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
can't
that's
keep up
right.
with me, and,
I,
so I still have the energy. I still have the drive. I still have the want to, just like, all of us. And, the good Lord's blessed me that I can sell the sport to some companies that keeps me out on the racetrack.
Man, what I can almost guarantee you. I mean, I know some of the drivers that are kind of into fitness like us, and they might work out with like Jim Leo from Pit Fit, who's a good friend, or and now partnered with the place that is in North Carolina. So Pit Fit's there in North Carolina now, even though they're in Indy. So I know a few of the NASCAR drivers that train there, but I can almost promise there's not a single NASCAR driver from cup to truck that's doing 500 push-ups a day. That's
Well,
that's pretty
man, I've
badass.
been doing that for years. I used to. I used to spar a lot. I was just, it was I was able to go to the gym and spar, but I was, it was before it was, I'd work on my sponsorship. Then I'd go to the gym, I'd spar. It was a cardio workout. I like to box, and it was a cardio thing. And then I would go run, I do my push-ups, and then I get back on the phone, go to the airport, but it was just really when I was racing full time, that was all I did. I had a little bit more time for the gym. About 5 years ago, my racing school, I bought it from my uncle Mike. And about 2 years after I bought the racing school, um, it was hard to race full time and run this business because we're so busy. And man, I got about 55 race cars and trying to keep them maintenance up and taken care of and events going on. I learned real quick, and as you know, Matt, you know this 100%. uh, People said, "Man, you have all these great sponsors." I said, "Man, I'm blessed, but I have all these great sponsors because I mean they bring their employees and their customers to the racetrack. We lay out the red carpet for them. It's kind of cool when the race is over with. They don't want to leave. I mean, the back of the haulers, the trailer's being shut, and they're still there. They love it so much. But
Yeah,
the
I'm one of
biggest thing is the biggest thing for me. I would spend days meeting with other companies, meeting with our other sponsors, and say, "Hey, I'd like for you to meet this other company that sponsored me. I feel like you guys together, y'all could buy each other's products or use y'all services." So the B2B over the years is really what's helped me. You get, and Matt, this, you get a sponsor and they sponsor you 2 or 3 races and they love it. But man, you start changing their overall sales. You bring them another customer who's going to buy their products or use their services, and then next thing you know, that partnership becomes it becomes long term. Because it's saying, man, not only was that experience for our customers that we bought to the racetrack and our employees experience of a lifetime, is you're bringing us business. I was like, man, I'm like family. I'm like an employee. So I bring people together, and that was really, I say I've been in the business for a long time because of that work ethic and bringing people together and making sure the sponsors know, "Hey, man, I need your funding. I need your money to race, but here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you everything that you or any other driver would do for our partners. But man, once I get home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, man, I'm going to work. I'm trying to figure out who do I have a relationship with that could use this services or buy their products. And then when I figure it out, I put them together, and it's been a beautiful thing, and it's still not easy. None of this is easy, man, as you know. But man,
Yeah.
I just work on, all aspects of it. And people say, "Man, you have a great job. You this, you that. You're lucky. You're this." And I always
Not
say,
like
"Hey, if you ever have 2 weeks, you want to shadow me." After probably about 5 or 6 days, they say, "Hey, time out. I'm out. This is too much." I mean, but
they
it's just
see.
it's a lot, as y'all know.
Yeah, it's funny how lucky you are. Yeah, right. How luck doesn't sleep, man. Yeah, it's so much luck when you're not sleeping and you're traveling on the road. Yeah, they find out real fast what it really is.
Let me jump in here and steer
Absolutely.
us back a little bit. So you were mentioning that in that race in Las Vegas that you weren't expecting to win. Now, when I started with Matt in NASCAR, I've been passionate about NASCAR my whole life, but when I got an insider's view, I was of the mind like, Matt, you could win this thing. We could do it. Days of Thunder, baby, right? But I learned real quick that that's just not the case. And I'm hoping that you could help articulate uh, why that's the case. And I know it's money, but I mean, more than that, like, um, all cars are supposed to be exactly the same in NASCAR. They all are supposed to use the same parts and all this, but the fact of the matter is that just doesn't happen. And I don't understand. I
He
don't
did. Yeah,
understand how it all works.
he
Can you please explain it to a layman like myself?
Well, I guess the easiest way, Matt, I think Matt could jump in a Penske car or RCR car, and he could win. You know what I mean? He might not win the first race, but he's going to win. If they gave him 5 races, I would say Matt's going to win one of those 5 races. The circumstances of a race has to play out. Maybe your pit crew had a bad stop, you know what I mean? Or something happens, or your car just wasn't that great that day. But you put Matt in a situation with one of those top teams, he's going to win. You know what I mean? So when you make it to the level that myself, Matt races at, and all the other competitors race at, they're all champions. They're all good. It's all about team. It's team. And uh, just a good example. If you have the budget, you have the sponsorship, you have the budget. There's 33 races in the O'Reilly's Auto Parts Series now. There's 33 races. There were 33 races last year. But you have to have an engine program, just an engine program. What that means is that you're leasing the best engines out of all the power and the torque you could ever want. And if you're a Chevrolet team, you're getting it from Hendrick Motorsports or Richard Childress Racing. If you're Ford, it's a Roush Yates motor. If you're Toyota, it's probably a Joe Gibbs motor. But to lease the best power underneath the hood where you don't even have to worry about that, it's about thirty to $35,000 a race. So,
Race
just
times.
for an engine, just for leasing an engine. So you go 33 races times $35,000, and that's just for the engine. And your tires, a tire, a set of tires is 2,500. Well, pretty much a race is 7 to 8 sets of tires in the O'Reilly series. That's 17,500 or 20 grand. You know what I mean? So you're already
Just
up
and you
to
and you
50.
haven't even yeah, and you haven't even
Yeah.
gotten to the track yet.
No, and then there's such thing as very qualified employees, crew members, mechanics, engineers, crew chiefs. And if a racing team doesn't have a very large budget, they can't hire an engineer that's making 200,000 or 250,000. They're going to hire somebody that's affordable, and so the good ones are getting taken by the powerhouse teams that has the ability to pay them a big salary. It goes for everybody involved. You know what I mean? Your truck driver, your parts person, all the mechanics.
It's more than that though, even as I understand it. So let's say you get the engine and let's say you get the tires, you still might have a chassis that's 15 years old compared to who
Man,
you're driving against. Is that true?
it's everything. It's equipment, you know what I mean? But it's equipment. The teams had to be funded well to build new race cars, and technology, engineering. It all costs. And a lot of the big teams in the O'Reilly series, they're buying technology, they're buying knowledge. They're partnered with some of these powerhouse teams. Well, just to have that knowledge, share the engineering, kind of share the kind of setups you had, maybe buy their race cars for them. They're building them for you. You start talking 2, 3, $4 million a year, just being man, I forget the name of it, where you're an alliance with a
Yeah.
Hendricks or an RCR or Joe Gibbs Racing, just to
Like
get
the
an
Woods
alliance.
brothers. Yeah.
You're paying, it's big, you're paying for that. And man, it all comes down to just having funding, having a big enough sponsorship money to get you to teams that have the best equipment, have the great employees, have the engineering behind them. It costs money, and in these days of NASCAR truck racing, O'Reilly Auto Parts, NASCAR racing on Saturday. I mean, it just takes a big budget. You got to have big sponsorships to be fortunate enough to drive for a team that has the equipment and the ability to build and have winning race cars. So it all falls back to just having the funding. And Matt, I tell you, Matt hadn't had the biggest funding over the years, and when he raced for Carl Long and different people, he should be proud of himself because he did a great job. Because he obviously took a knife to a gunfight. You know what I mean? But you got to run the whole race. And Matt's ability and others' ability sometimes will help a racing team. You might have a 30th place car and you finish 22nd or 21st. I mean, people on the inside and the people in the industry, these owners, they see that. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of successes in a race, not just the one that goes to victory lane and gets the trophy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So let me
It's
ask you this. I had mentors or even people that you know very well. Like I'll say his name, Brendan Gaughan, for example. If I'm totally honest, he was giving me a hard time at one time. He was telling me, Jaskol, stop trying to stop raising money to do 5 races with these low budget teams like Carl Long, and just raise a bunch of money, easier said than done, of course, to race with a really good team like an RCR. And obviously you've raced for some of these low budget teams because we want to be out there. We want to be competing to guys like us. I believe, at least my mentality was, I'd rather be at the racetrack 5 weekends than sitting on my butt for 5 of them and just trying to do one race. What's your thought on that? What's your thought on trying to raise enough money to race just a few times with a really expensive team that is going to have a better car, or do the 12 or 15 races you're planning to do this year with a little bit lower budget team?
you that's really, really a good point what you bring up. Brendan Gaughan is a great friend of mine, has been for 30 years, and great guy. We've had this conversation more than one time over the years, but when we were equal, I'd win Las Vegas, he'd win Texas. He won Texas race a lot more than I won the Las Vegas race, you know what I mean? But we ran a Winston
The
West
opposite
race
of their
there,
home.
and I beat him. I mean, I won the race, and Kenny Schrader, Johnny Benson, Brendan Gaughan, I mean, on and on was in it. And then I think the next year I won the truck race there. And he said, "Man, why don't you let me win Vegas and you just have Texas?" I said, "Well, I wish we could, I wish we could make that
Plan that.
true, if it was only that easy, And but but Brendan, they had
He
their
has
own
a good
team for
point.
what's that?
He has a good point about what he said to us, right? I mean, trying to
Yeah,
find
no,
the
he's got a good point, but they had their own team for many years, and I don't remember what the circumstances were, but he said, "Hey, I remember him saying, man, David, his words. He said, I've wasted enough of my parents' money, and he said, I'm going to give it one more year. He said, hey, we're going to pay a lot of money, Richard Childress Racing, and he said, man, if I can't get the job done, if I can't pull in a victory lane, then I'm done. And I was shocked to hear him tell me that. Well, he did do that, and he won a race, and then I think he ended up being 8 or 9 years with Richard Childress Racing. But I know the numbers because he shared with me, and man, the kind of
high
money that
dollar.
they took to him was unbelievable. It'd take me pretty much my whole life and borrow money for so many other people to get that kind of money, what he spent to drive for Richard Childress for 8 years, but it worked. It was competitive. He won some races. It worked. But he said, man, David, he would come talk to me after we got done practicing or after qualifying. We would always visit, and a lot of times we go to dinner together. But he said, man, why don't you got all these sponsors, but it's not enough money. He said, why don't you just take all that money you got that you run all year long with and run 3 to 5 races with a team that has a car that can win? He said, maybe if you win a race, maybe the sponsorship, the people sponsoring you or new sponsors would come. He had a good point there, but here's the deal, Matt. So for 20, I see here for this, when I go to Daytona, I'll be my 29th year. So
Wow,
for
that's amazing.
26 years, that's how I made a living. Everything I have in life, my house, my family, all my cars, everything is because we were NASCAR race car drivers. How I made my living, and I saved my money, invested it well, but man, everything I got's because of racing, and and Brendan had a good point, just like he told me, just like he told you. He's got a good point there, but under the circumstances, I got to make a living. You know what I mean? So, I take a 25th place race car and run in the top 20 every week. It paid us well. The sponsors we did have, they loved it. It worked for them. They got their customers loved it. Their employees love it. They got more business. It worked for them, for that kind of budget that they were giving me. It worked. Was I going to win the race? No, I wasn't, but I was very competitive. I was honest, and man, I said, hey, I'm probably going to qualify, and probably 27, 28, 30th. But when when the race is over with, I hope to be in the top 15, and usually I was 14th, 13th, 16th, 17th. I was right there, but I made a good living doing it, but to say, hey, next year, 10 years ago or 15 years next year, I'm going to take all that money I have and I'm going to run 5 races. Man, I can't make a living. Like you said, I want to race 33 races, not 5. And maybe I could have won one of those 5, but from a financial standpoint, making a paycheck, paying your bills and doing what you do, it just didn't work for me. You know what I mean? It might have worked for somebody else. I remember Ryan Preece. Ryan at the
You just had
time
a big
was,
win.
years ago, Ryan Preece was driving for Johnny Davis. And he would be so frustrated because he's a Northwest modified champion. He'd get in that Xfinity car or O'Reilly's car, and man, he was back there racing with me, and he's after race said, "God dang it, man!" He said, "Dude, we're better than this." And he finally told me one race. He said, "Next year," he said, "I'm going to take all this sponsor money I got. It might only be 3 races or 4 races." I think it ended up being 5 races, and I believe it was Joe Gibbs racing. And man, he ended up winning out of those 5 races. Y'all have to go back and look at the stats. I don't remember, but I remember Ryan sharing with me the same thing Brendan Gaughan was telling me to do and you to do. I just couldn't make that work because I needed to make a living, but Ryan did it and it worked for him. I think he won 2 races for Joe Gibbs Racing, and man, it lit a fire. It put him on the map big time, and now he's in the Cup Series. You know what I mean? So everybody's different. We're all different.
I think there's 2 schools of thought here. So you're gambling in your life every race in some way,
Putting your life on the line.
yeah. But also to Gaughan's point, I mean, it worked.
It did. Yeah.
It worked for Priest as well, and it's just a matter of, are you willing to take that big leap, that big chance, and if it doesn't work, you're out of the game.
You possibly
No,
out of the
yeah,
game.
yeah.
I admire, obviously, I mean, I really do. I share your same, thought, David. When I talked to Brendan about it, I was like, I appreciated it. I appreciated his thought, and he wasn't wrong, and of course it was already thought about. Of course we had discussed it, but I was kind of the same mentality of you as, man, if I put all this money together and it's just one race, now you're potentially done. You just spent a lot of money. And I admire the fact that you kind of took the harder road, obviously the road less traveled that requires a lot more work, doesn't get a lot of praise. And so let me ask you, or let me bring this up as well, because I lived it a little bit, not nowhere near as long as you have, but I was there a little bit. Does it bother you a little bit, or do you think NASCAR doesn't quite give the guys like you the credit deserved, obviously, when every damn weekend for many years you're taking a 25th place car, you're driving it up into the top 20 because you're choosing to devote your life to the career, like you just said, to making a living. At least I know when I was there, and from what I still see, the credit really isn't given like it should be. What are your thoughts about that?
you know, uh, you got to understand. I didn't make it to NASCAR. I was 27, 26, maybe 28 years old. You do the math. This is my 29th year, and man, I didn't get married till I was 40 years old. I mean, from the time I can remember being 2 or 3, going to the racetrack and the race shop with my dad. Man, I lived, eat, and slept NASCAR racing. I studied Richard Petty, AJ Foyt. I mean, you can't imagine what I did, what I have today from when I was a little bitty boy. Um, it wasn't easy. None of it's easy. You know what I mean? I raced uh, so many different people in Houston, Texas, where I'm from, and the race cars I raced, the different types of race cars, winning races, winning championships. Man, I fought, clawed, earned that right. I earned it. Don't mean you're going to get it. But man, you want something so bad your whole life. There was no plan. I barely made it out of high school. There was no plan B. I had a plan. I never divvied from it ever, ever. Uh, e- I prayed, I worked, I met people, I developed relationships, I raced. I could write a good book, but man, there was even, I never thought about giving up ever, even when I was 26, 27, and I'm still digging, but man, it was so hard. Um, and looking back on it, the life I have today, the same person. You look at my hands are greasy, dirty. Yeah, I mean, I got a beautiful home. I got a beautiful wife, beautiful family, boys. They're here at the shop working on the race cars. And man, I've been blessed and lived my dream and still living that dream. If NASCAR and the media don't want to give me no love because of, the situation, that I'm okay with that. Dude, what matters to me is I made it. I made a great living. I would have never had the life I have. I'm still living it. Maybe I never, maybe I have, my buddy Mike Skinner used to be my teammate. He told me not too long ago. He said, "Man, I hate seeing you race on. I hate watching you race because I raced with you forever. You was my teammate, and I begged you to be my teammate for years." But he said, "You're so much better than that." And I said, "Well, Mike, under the sponsor money I got, and the team I drive for, I'm giving it all I got. And I'm loving every minute of it. I might be running 25th, but I got a big old smile on my face and I'm driving my tail off. But
Yeah.
man,
Well, let me reframe the question. So we're going to be a back half podcast. We're going to talk to people that are in the back half and speak about, what they're racing for every week. Like
right.
you just said, dude, people don't see them unless they're getting lapped or if they're in a wreck or something like that on TV. So we want to highlight that, and we're going to meet with NASCAR hopefully soon here locally at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and ask them if we can get some credentials to be able to come in and talk to those guys and let people know what they were racing for today, and who their sponsors are, and their name. Maybe they don't even know who they are, at that point. So, but we want to put a focus on that. So, do you think NASCAR should do a better job about evening that out a little bit, getting your sponsor on TV, for God's sake?
Well, look, I've been on both sides of it. So I've been blessed. I think about not the races I've won, the races I should have won. You know what I mean? Golly, I mean, I was at the PRI show in December, and some of the late great Bobby Hamilton's guys are running this new stock car class, NHRA. They got a new stock car class, and the guys running that thing are they're all Bobby Hamilton guys. They said, "Man, I remember that time where you and Bobby raced your tail off. You had that thing won. You was coming to the white flag, and the caution came out, and said Bobby beat you on the restart." I mean, I had that thing won. If the caution would have came out, if I'd have just, 20 yards, I'd have won the race, and there's 10, 12, 13 of them. But, hey, man, I'm thankful. I drove for some, I was equal for years. I was equal in the truck series. And so, I've been on both ends of it. I've been blessed, I had great equipment, great employees, great crew chiefs. And then, over the years, the industry changed. I've lived through a lot of different NASCAR racing, and all the guys, Jack Sprague, Johnny Benson, Ron Hornaday. I mean, on and on and on. Mike Skinner. I mean, hey man, where you guys at? Where are you? Who's driving your truck? Oh man, David, that kid driving. His parents paid $5 million. What? What do you mean paid $5 million? I mean,
Yeah.
I was racing a truck series for many, many, many years. It was just hardcore, just a complete racer like Matt, just somebody could drive their tail off, made it to NASCAR. There was no bringing sponsors, paying the racing team, completely different, so I race with true hardcore racers, and so I've been on both ends of it. Now I'm on the other end of it. And and a lot of times, I know the leaders, the people running up front, they deserve to get the credit, the TV exposure. They get all the, their sponsors get mentioned. That's just how it works. But to your point, Mike, I think NASCAR, it wouldn't hurt him to showcase the second part, the second half of the racers, the teams, because the team finishing dead last or the one finishing 30th or 35th, let me tell you, they're working just as hard, probably harder than the teams that are winning the races, running the top 10 every week. And it's great stories. It's passion. It's true hardcore passion. Man, the personalities, the people, what they do, passion, and the commitments they made. It's great stories. So y'all's podcast is going to be a success because, man, there's some good stories back there from the half the field to all the way to the back. It's good stuff. And we're all human. We all have feelings. We're all human beings. We have a heart. I just thank the good Lord that I've been on both ends of it. Obviously, these days I'm from the second half to the back. You know what I mean? But dude, I can tell you the guys running the top 10, driving for those powerhouse teams, they ain't racing any harder than I am. I'm probably driving a hell of a lot harder than they are. And I had one about 3 years ago. I think we might have been in Darlington, and I was racing my tail off for like 12th or 13th. I got the spot, but I got in the leader's way. And I think the guy ended up finishing third or fourth. And he came and seen me after the race. And I let him know real quick. That I understood his situation, and I understand because I've been him before where I was racing for the lead, but a lap car got in my way. It got in my way because he's doing the same thing, the same damn thing I was doing. He's trying to get him another spot. It's just racing. I've always been respectful to, now that I'm on the second half, the back of the pack, I'm respectful to the leaders. But man, when I'm trying to get another spot or two at the end of the race, I'm racing my tail off. I'm trying to be respectful to the leaders if they're coming because they earned the right for me to get out of their way. But just so happened that I got in somebody's way. I let him know real quick that I didn't give a rat's, about me getting in his way. And if he had a problem with it, that I'm going to leave the racetrack in about an hour. If he wanted to, I'd wait on him if he wanted to discuss it away from our pit crews, my pit crew and his, where it would just be me and him. If he wanted to discuss it a little bit further, that I would wait on him man to man outside the track so nobody would bother us.
Yeah. On that note, I was gonna ask you if you ever that sparring you talked about. I was gonna ask you,
Well,
have you ever had to use that, or how many
well,
times have you had to use that?
over the years, I paid my fair share of fines. You know what I mean? I paid my fair shares. I'm not proud of them, but just man to man, sometimes they back
Sometimes
you up
it's
against the
needed.
wall, and you got to do what you got to do. That's just passion. But I told that driver anytime that he wanted to trade vehicles for one race, I'd be more than welcome to trade vehicles with him. And he would, my situation that he would have probably done the same thing because he was fighting for another spot or two, because I was going to finish in the top 15, which is like a win for us. But it's just, man, again, guys, I've been blessed. I'm not retiring anytime soon. I'm going to race my tail off and do the best I can. I love it. I love it. And Matt, if they don't want to give me if they don't want to cover me, give me any mentions, that's fine. I'm still going to have a big old smile on my face. My sponsors are going to love it. I'm going to work. I'm going to be out there racing my tail off. So I'm okay with that.
Well, David, listen, you're still educating me and teaching me even today, not being your teammate for a long time. And what I took from all that, asking you difficult questions that I appreciate you because we know it's sensitive sometimes. We don't want to
Yeah.
say the wrong thing. We don't want to, we don't want to say bad about NASCAR, but I think you actually just shared the real reality of it that you didn't need anything from NASCAR. You worked your butt off for what you wanted and you just took it. You don't need NASCAR to give it to you. And we appreciate, I love to hear that you've just
Yeah.
worked your butt off. You've worked harder than anybody else. And you've just made a life, yes, could NASCAR do a better job and make it a little easier? Sure. But you just prove that, pound for pound, you're still today one of the hardest working guys out there, man.
One of the, now that you mentioned that years ago, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, one of the Rouse guys, one of my sponsor called me And he said, "Hey, man, this guy works for Roush Racing. He called us and said, hey, you need to, why don't you come sponsor our car, come with a winning team, a winning driver, you know what I mean? And that was fine. Everybody has the right to do that. And my sponsor, I'm like family with, I'm sorry, one of my race cars is cranked up. If y'all can hear that.
That's good. Even better.
That's
fine. All right.
We're happy with that.
Let it run.
You should have done that in the beginning.
Go tell them to cut it off. They're setting a timing on one of the cars. But
We're good.
anyway, my sponsor, because you're like family, man. Your sponsors, you become family with them, man, I treat them like family. They treat me like family. So they called me and said, hey, this guy called. He was trying to get us to look at Roush Racing, this car. And they shared with me who it was. And I said, man, I appreciate that, But they said, hey, we're with David Starr, and we've been with him, and it was all good. Well, I kept that in the back of my mind. And a couple of races later, when I had a little bit of free time, I walked over to the Cup side, and I went to one of the Rouse haulers, and I said, hey, where's so-and-so at? And they said, well, I don't know. I ain't seen him in a while. So I went to the next Rouse hauler, and I said, hey, where's so-and-so at? And they said, well, he's in here. I said, well, hey, can you grab him real quick? And so next thing you know, about 5 minutes later, this guy, the guy I was looking for, he came out there, and I said, hey, buddy, I said, I'm David Starr. And I said, next time you call one of my sponsors, you can call them all. But the next time you call one of my sponsors, I'm going to wait for you right when you head to your hotel. When you leave this racetrack, I'm going to be parked in my rent car right outside the racetrack. And me and you, man to man, I'm going to take care of business with you. And I want you to know, I don't give a damn if you drive for Jack Roush. I don't give a rat's ass who you work for. That doesn't matter to me. Next time you call one of my sponsors, and I hope you do it Monday, because next week I'd like to meet you outside the racetrack. And man, that guy couldn't even speak. You know what I mean? Because I don't care if he drives for Jack Roush. I mean, I work hard to go get my own sponsors. You do too. I don't need some guy that Jack Roush has hired to go calling my sponsors. And I said, you can call all my sponsors, and you might hurt me, but you're going to think about next time you call one of my sponsors, and you're going to have to meet me outside the racetrack again. And if I got to do it every week, I don't have a problem with that. I don't care if you work for Rick Hendricks. Jack Roush, I'm never going to drive for Jack Roush. Jack Roush called years ago, wanted to, and talked to me about driving for him, but it didn't work out. But if you're driving for Jack Roush or working for Jack Roush, you know how much I care? I don't care. And I'll show you right outside the racetrack where it's just man to man. And when I get done with you, I hope you go back and tell Jack Roush what I did, because it has no bearing on me. I don't care. It's not going to change what I do, who I am. Just respectful. I always go to the source. I'm not going to get on a phone and text you. I'm not going to call you. I'm going to do it man to man. And I've done that with a couple of guys, just want them to know, hey, just man to man, me and you outside the sport, outside where it's just the public, where nobody can get in our way. And I'll just let them know what I think, because you work your tail off, Matt. I do too. And a lot of other drivers do too. And I don't care what Jack Roush thinks or Richard Childress. I'm good friends with them, but you're going to call one of my sponsors. We'll handle it outside the racetrack, man to man,
But
I don't
think
call yours. I don't want you to call mine.
Listen, I think you just highlighted and you just educated the people that just don't understand how hard it is for guys like you and guys like myself to put a sponsorship together, to be out there on the track. And what you just mentioned, talking about family and God, I think it's actually family and sponsors, then God, then racing. Because what you just said and taught us is that another man calling another man's sponsor is like trying to call some other man's wife. Yeah. It's right up there in that level of like, man, you don't mess with another man's sponsor who's busting his ass out there to be in a race car. And I love that. I think you just let people know.
It says a lot
David
about your
Starr ever
character.
comes asking for you,
It says a
Be
lot about your
careful.
character, Matt, and who you are as a person. I don't.
Yeah.
There's enough companies out there. I don't call. If I call a company and they said, "Oh, we're sponsoring so and so," I said, "Man, you got an awesome driver." I said, "Man, I want to apologize. I had no idea, and thank you for being in the sport. And the driver you're behind, he's awesome. You know what I mean?" I've
Yeah. Yeah.
called over the years. I'm going to say 5 or 6 times that I call a company and said, "Man, we've been sponsoring Brad Keselowski or whoever, and I said, I want to apologize first of all because I'm calling you because I wanted to talk to you about sponsorship. Didn't know you were in the sport, but man, thank you for being in our sport. I hope your driver, the team you're with, I hope it works and thank you." And I apologize to them, and I've actually had some of the drivers said, "Man, David, you called our sponsor and my sponsor liked you." They said, "Man, you told him this and that." I said, "Man, that's just, I'm not, I don't need to call other people's sponsors, but anyway, it happens."
It happens. So let me
Yeah.
listen. You've given us so much time. I know you got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to try to wrap it up because
Okay.
also you've also educated us on some other topics that I think that we're going to reconvene. And yes, you kind of mentioned something else really fast too about the Fall Guy podcast. What we're trying to do here, we are going to try to bring the eyes to that back half, like Mike said, and for the guys like us, it is a play on words. The fall guy, the guy that's laying it out there on the line, the guy like myself that was willing to jump out of a helicopter to try to make a name for himself. I was trying to make my sponsor happy. I donated money to charity. I was just doing what you do, man. I was just trying to do something unique and bring the sponsors in. So let me ask you this: you already kind of mentioned it, man, and I love it because I see it in myself, and I think a lot of racers are like that. I've never given up. We always push forward, and even though I'm not in a race car, people sometimes think I've given up, and I haven't. I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to take care of my family. I'm trying to pay bills. I'm traveling to be a racing instructor and a racing driver, or get paid however I can to do what I love. But you mentioned it. You've never given up. But I wanted to ask you, and maybe you already answered it. Was there ever a moment in your life, whether it was early on before you even really got into racing, or much later on when you were already a very established race car driver, maybe it was after a horrible crash or something, which we didn't really get into, and maybe we'll get into it another episode with you. Was there ever a moment that you can share with us where your life almost took a completely different career path?
Man, not really. I've only been injured one
That is
time.
awesome.
Not really. I've been injured one time, and it hurt me to see somebody else driving my race car. But,
Oh God, yes.
but
That's
once
all I
I
could
got
think
back,
about. He was hurt. I don't want to stop you, but man, that's what I love about this guy. I was hurt. I had a bad crash, and what hurt more was somebody was driving my race car.
yeah, yeah. But man, I want to tell you something, but um, um, let me think for a second. Hang on a second.
No, thanks, man. I know. I think I know. I think I know the feeling.
You know, um, you had a lot of broken promises, hadn't you?
Yeah.
You
Yes, I
know,
have.
one of the things in this sport, no matter what level it is, bear with me.
Yeah, take your time.
I my mom one time, man, I could say I write a book, but I made it to NASCAR, but it didn't work. It failed, and not for anything I did. It just uh um one of my sponsors bought half of a team, and the team they bought, they used up all the money, and before I could run my first race, they shut it down. And your parents, um, you know, basically what I'm trying to say, um, one time when you feel sorry for yourself or your question, um, man, will I ever get that other opportunity, And my mom said, if you can make that opportunity happen, why can't you make another one happen? So um, when I had a little bit of doubt, um, your mom or your dad was there to make sure. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do, man.
Yeah.
I I feel sorry I struck a chord, but you got me emotional, man, because
Me too.
because I've been there, man, and I think I do know what you're trying to say, and damn, you are the poster child of never giving up, and I think I know the driving force. What's kept me doing it is I want to make my parents proud, and they gave up so much, man, for me to have a career, and that's what, and we are guys like us, man, we're different, and a lot of racers are, we just aren't willing to give up. And I'm
Yeah.
glad I asked you that question, because you know what, I hope this really I hope this gets out to some people and is a little bit of a wake up call of just how difficult this game is, man, and how much we're willing to sacrifice, and how much people have sacrificed so we can try to chase our dreams, and you are a motivation, man. You are a
Yeah.
force to remind
Man,
people of that,
And
man.
let's
I
go.
apologize about that. I apologize, but my, when there was ever any doubt, your mom or your dad, my mom would say, "Hey, if you can make this happen, you fall forward. It didn't work, but you made this one happen. Go out there and make another one. Don't even, So, well, if
And we
I
all
ever
know
had a
it's,
little
it's
bit of
bigger
doubt,
than
my
just
mom was there to
racing.
pick me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and yeah, Mike just said it. We know it's a lot bigger. It's a lot
Whoever's
bigger than
out
racing.
there, whatever it is that you're passionate about, it applies to every line of business
Just
or
life in
every
general,
career.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's talk about this.
Okay.
270 plus starts in what was the NASCAR Xfinity Series. First career top 5 was 5th at Daytona, where you're on your way to. So, I'm pretty excited to watch.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see if you can maybe get
Man,
yourself up in the top 10.
that fifth place finish, that was a crazy story. I was driving for Bobby Daughter, who Matt really knows, great guy, SS
Yeah.
Greenlight Racing. I didn't have a lot of money that year, and but I was racing full time for Bobby, and Bobby called and he said, "Hey man," he said, "I got this kid. I don't remember the kid's name, but he said, man, his parents want to pay me, give me $150,000 for Daytona." I said, "Well, hell, I think I had 30,000 for you." And he said, "Look, man, he said, I want you to make this decision." And I said, "Bobby, if you have somebody that's going to give you $150,000, I said, sir, you got to take that money. You got to take that, because I knew our racing team, our employees, we were scrapping and doing the best we could. But, I definitely didn't have 150 grand. I had 30." And I said, "Bobby, that's the easy one, sir." I said, "I'm going to give you the answer right now. You take that other driver and you go run Daytona." And so they did, man. And it was that was like maybe 2 weeks prior to the race. Well, the week of the race, I think it was a Wednesday. Man, and I'm like, man, I couldn't. I said, I can't even go to the race. I can't even go. So I ended up not going. But man, I think Wednesday I was working in my yard. And I'm a yard freak. I like to work in my yard to keep my yard all manicured. It looks great and all my flowers and hedges. But Friday came around. I'm like, it was tearing me up. So, man, I went back in my yard. I was mowing the grass. And, uh, and man, I stopped to go drink a Gatorade and I picked up my phone and man, I must have had 20 missed calls, and a lot of texts, 911 texts. And I'm like, God, and it was Bobby Daughter, it was Bobby, Jason Miller. They're like, man, call us, call us, call us. So I called Bobby. He said, "Hey, man, I need you to get to Daytona like quick. And I'm like, well, I'm like, okay, now. He said, "Now I need you to come, and I said, well, look, let me go pack pack my bag real quick, and I'll head to the airport. He said, well, look, pack your bag, go to the airport quick as you can, and then we can talk on the phone on your way to the airport. So, man, it was 30 minutes later, I was on my way to the airport, and I called him and I said, hey, I'm on my way to the airport. And I said, I'll pay for a plane ticket to Orlando and I'll be there. And I said, what is going on, man? He said, dude, the kid that the mom paid 150, he's got the flu. He can't drive. He don't feel good. I said, hell, Bobby, when I was sick over the years, if I had the flu, what made me better was getting in that race car racing, man. It was like the best medicine you could ever get. I said, you got to be kidding me.
The best, most expensive sauna on the planet.
It is unbelievable. So anyway, man, I flew over there. I was supposed to get there Friday evening, and man, I'm trying to remember. The plane broke down. Next thing you know, I didn't get there till 6 a.m. the next morning. I was up all night, and I finally got to the track. And man, I got in the car, and the seat didn't fit me right. And NASCAR said, well, hey, work on the seat and we'll let you qualify. I did last. And man, so I went out, did last. The seat didn't fit me. So we made the race. And so NASCAR, after qualifying, they put the car back in the garage, said, David, you can work on this seat. We worked on that seat and finally got it where I could fit in the seat. And the race started. We started the race, did last. And man, the car was messing. It had a mess. And man, I couldn't even keep up in the draft. It started raining, and they postponed the race until the next day. Well, we had something going on with the car. I don't remember what it was, but when they covered up the car on pit road because it was raining, I said, bring me a 1/2-inch wrench, just throw it in the car. I was working with the battery cables under the dash. They couldn't see me because it did last. It was a blast car. We had it covered up. Well, it got rained out. We was able to come in the next morning, fix the problem. We started did last. I actually lost a lap, got my lap back, and we almost won the race. We finished 5th. Dude, Friday I was mowing my grass. You know what I mean? And so I remember that race just because of all that. I wasn't even supposed to run the race, so it was kind of interesting. And you remember that, and they almost end up winning it. You know what I mean? And anyway, it was kind of a cool story. So yeah, sorry to elaborate on that, but that was kind of funny.
Just kind of cool, man. Yeah, finishing 5th at Daytona, and you know what? You just highlighted once again, man, that none of this is luck. Somebody taught me. It was actually when I was a young man at Red Bull. This great friend of mine who was a representative of Red Bull when I raced there, and he said, people confuse luck as opportunity meets preparation. And so you have prepared your entire life, man. Everything you do, 500 push-ups a day, all the training, everything even getting emotional about dedicating your entire life to what you do. People just don't understand that type of discipline to be able to just get a phone call. You didn't get lucky. You didn't get a phone call by chance, and you didn't go out there and finish 5th by luck. It's because of everything you've done your whole life to prepare for that moment. I hope, and we want to share and hope people really understand and take that home, that you're a rare breed, man, of people that can take that opportunity and turn it into something. And what I also do love is that, living life at 200 miles an hour, you find peace and you find that balance and working in your yard. And I think I found it right there when you talk about balance, that people probably constantly say it to you like they do to me. Oh man, you got to live just life 100 to 200 mile an hour. You're just an adrenaline junkie. And honestly, I like to just be in my garden when I'm not in a race car and just and have that peace, man.
It's awesome, man. We're all kind of weird in our own ways. I got a lot of weird, I'm weird. I like everything clean, neat, and organized. I like my yard clean,
Well, hey, listen, I think everybody knows too, man, when you go to Daytona, it doesn't matter where you start. You have a shot at it. And even if you're in a little bit of a lower budget car, do you feel pretty good about Daytona coming up?
Man, I'm excited. Matt, this, for the second half of the field, when we go to Daytona and Talladega, we're on equal playing fields, and I've been so close over the years, man, all I do is just, you try to run a smart race and give your team and your sponsors an opportunity to be there at the end. And if we're there at the end on the last lap, man, you just do the best. I don't mind wrecking on the last lap. I always say, hey, Jesus, you just take the wheel. I'm going wide open no matter what happens. If I end up on my roof or, I just want to be there on the last lap, and so that's the goal, is to make sure you're in the race and you're there on the last lap. When you cross start finish line, you see the white flag. Man, I'm pushing the car in front of me. Somebody's pushing me, and I'm not lifting. I'm just, and man, I just want to be there at the end. If it gets ugly at the end, it just gets ugly. But man, I just want the opportunity, if you crash on lap 20 or 40, it's disappointing, because it's like, man, I wanted to give my team an opportunity to win. Just wanted to be there at the end. So sometimes, I let my sponsors know, hey, if you see me holding back a little bit at the first half of the race, right in the middle, just know I'm doing it on purpose, because I want to be there at the end. Only thing that matters is that last lap, and so anyway, I'm just blessed to have the opportunity this year to go try to win a race at Talladega or Daytona and do the best we can, anywhere we're racing. So I'm excited, dude.
I think you are the walking, talking version of that famous soundbite. You just said it. I'm just going to hold it flat out until I see God or the checkered flag if I make it to that last lap, man.
Yeah,
and
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I don't know if you're like me, but I've gotten better over the years, man. But it's hard for me to watch racing sometimes when I'm not there, because it makes you a little bit sad. It makes you depressed, man. You just want to be there. But I will tell you that you have given me some new excitement to watch Daytona this weekend, man.
We'll live vicariously through you, sir.
Well, I appreciate that, but I want to say this, Matt. You're such a great race car driver. It's a shame that you're not going to be there racing, and you're so good, and who you are as a person and what you do for your sponsors, man. It's a shame that you don't have a sponsor and you're not there racing yourself. So if you do race, if you do watching it, I hope to be the last one you watch in the next Daytona. You're there racing, dude. You know what I mean? So
I
I know you're
appreciate, man.
good.
You give me a lot of motivation, man, to get back out there, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to use that, and I really hope I have the honor to be out there on track with you again, to say I got to go door to door with you, and no matter what, I'll always have a lot of love and respect for that, man. So thank you, dude. Thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, we could probably talk to you for hours. I can't believe you gave us the time that you did.
Yeah.
And I hope we're gonna package it in the best way we can for you. And you're just, once again, man, everything you've done, everything you've said tonight has just motivated myself, at least, to keep pushing forward and never give up and keep doing what we're doing, man. So I really
Man,
appreciate it.
I love what y'all are doing, and all the guys, the guys running up front. Everybody likes to showcase the guys. Don't get the love or the notoriety, or the cameras not on them. Man, those guys, they probably got better stories than the guys that are winning the races or running up front. You know what I mean? So I think your podcast is really going to be a big success, to be able to showcase those great stories and the passion and what yourself and a lot of the other guys that run in the second half of the field. I mean, their stories are amazing. They're very successful. They're great race car drivers. Just the situation of how much money you bring to the table dictates the quality of team you're going to drive for. And man, I always tell everybody, just to be there, just to be racing in NASCAR. First of all, you're a winner, you're a champion, because it's so hard. If you're out there competing, you've already won. You've already won the race, man. Just live it up, enjoy it, take care of those sponsors, and keep digging. If you have a bad race or this happens, man, in my mind, in my book, you're a champion, because to race at the level that you raced at and I'm racing at, it's not easy, man. It's only a select few in the world. And Matt, you know this. You look at the Truck Series, you look at the O'Reilly Series, you look at the Cup Series. If you add up those three national NASCAR racing series, I forget how many that compete in the Truck Series these days. I think it's 36, 38. I don't remember.
Yeah, just
So
under
let's just
40.
call it 40.
Yeah.
40 in the O'Reilly series. I think it's 38, but we'll just call it 40. And then on the Cup side, it is 40. So 120 people in the world race NASCAR, and you were once one of those 120 people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm honored for
man,
that. And thank
what
you.
you've
Thank you for
done and
reminding
what
me.
you accomplished and what you're going to continue to do, man. You know how many millions of people in the world would like to stand in Matt Jaskol's shoes? Lots. You know what I mean? So yeah, see, Mike, there you go. You see what I mean? So man, don't discount it. It's pretty awesome and it's cool
Yeah.
and it's not easy, but man, what you guys are doing, your podcasts, y'all are going to kill it. It's going to be good, and I'm honored that y'all called me up and let me be on your podcast. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Thank y'all.
In the P1 position, Paul won, but you were the first, man.
Yeah. That
So,
was by intention too.
yeah,
We both agreed that
right. And
you were the one.
by the way, man, it wasn't by chance, and it wasn't by, oh man, we got to find somebody for the show. It was discussed, and we were like, man, this would be perfect if he's willing to do it. So thank you for that.
And by the way, our motto here is we're not here to simply exist. We're here to live, and we're here to live loud. And you're a
Yeah.
great example of that.
Yeah, you're the
Well,
perfect
I
example of that.
appreciate it, guys. We're gonna keep on living, man.
All
And
righty.
I hope, man, to make what would make Daytona any better or any other races if I'm beating and banging, trading paint with Matt. You know what I mean? Because he deserves it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's make that happen,
you.
Matt. Okay.
And do me a favor, man. Please, continue. You got a lot of good years left in you, and I think you know that. And so man, you literally just lit a fire for me to get out there, and it would be a cool story. Hey Matt, you're back in NASCAR, and I'm gonna say, well, I talked to David, and he kicked me in the ass a little bit, and reminded me to get out there, man. So I haven't given up. I'm not going to give up. And like you just said, on Saturday when you're racing, there's going to be a couple million people watching you, wishing they were in your seat, and we will remember that. And thanks for reminding us of that. So we appreciate
No
it.
problem, man. Hey, thank y'all for having me, man. Good luck with everything, and thank you again. I'm honored. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. We'll talk to you
All right, man.
soon.
Next time on the Fall Guy Podcast, 2012 Rookie of the Year Stephen Leicht tells us how he went from driving in NASCAR to driving for DoorDash. Please support the Fall Guy Podcast by smashing these buttons today. And for more about this show or to contact Matt, go to thefallguypodcast.com.